And I genuinely think that when it comes to the Fever, as much as the expectation should be that they should be like a championship level team, and I actually agree with that. I think expecting them to be the best team day one is like, not that it's not possible. There is a genuine good chance that the Fever are the best team or one of the best teams. The Fever could win 35 games. But there's always, when you could bring in so many new players, there's always, hey, I'm using the freaking Taurasi language. There's always an adjustment, a quote unquote adjustment period. And like, if we look, the best example I'll always give is this. The Miami Heatles. The Miami Heatles. Like, we remember the Miami Heatles with Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James. This team started off 9-9 in their first season. They actually started off 9-9. So they ended the season pretty well. They started off 9-9, and by the end of the season, they were 58-24. So for the rest of the season, they went 49-15, which is elite, which is more than a 60-win pace. But they didn't start off the greatest straight away. So we're looking at a team where it's like, they might go into the Eurobasket month as the 5th seed. And that's fine. Because if the Fever hover around 3rd, 4th, 5th seeds for the year and end up in the 2-3 range, because I think that there is a possibility that the Fever end up as the 1 seed overall. But I just think that continuity matters. And I think one of the biggest reasons why the Lynx were so good last year was because they had the continuity. They had the continuity. It wasn't like they were bringing in any new stars. They brought in Courtney Williams. They brought in Lana Smith from the Chicago Sky. So they came in and were upgrades on Jessica Shepard, who was playing at the 4, and I can't even remember who was running the 1 for them before that. But they were upgrades on a non-playoff team. And you're looking at a team realistically with 5 players left from last year and 7 new ones. And I do think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. Like, it could be 1 game, it could be 10 games, it could be 15 games. But I think once the Fever, and when it comes to this as well, it's about peaking at the right time. Let's not forget who were the best team. Who were the best team to start last season? The Connecticut Sun. The Connecticut Sun beat the Liberty. They won 11 games straight last year. But by the end of the year, the Connecticut Sun were the 3rd seed and nearly blew the 3rd seed. Like, the Connecticut Sun last season genuinely nearly blew the 3rd seed. They ended up 1 game ahead of the Aces. The Sun won 11 straight games to start the year. For the rest of the year, they went 17-12. Whereas the Minnesota Lynx, I think they lost 2 games after the Olympic break. They went 14-2 post-Olympic break. And realistically, they should have probably won a championship. They went 14-2 post-Olympic break. And the only reason they weren't the overall top seed was because Fee Collier got injured for about 5 or 6 games prior to the Olympics. When you look at the Liberty only added in a Leone Fibish from last season. Obviously, Niara Sabally got healthy, but they realistically only added in Leone Fibish. For the Seattle Storm started off pretty well as well. They kind of faded. The Mercury ended up sub 500. So you're looking at all these teams, and it's like, even the Aces were hovering around 500 for a while. They just went on a huge winning streak to end the season, then blitzed the Storm in the playoffs. They just came up against a juggernaut. So it's all about peaking at the right time. It really is all about peaking at the right time when it comes to this season. So, like, I think the Fever are in my contenders category. Like, if I was to make, like, tier lists, I would have my favorites being and this is obviously as teams are constructed right now. If MMA Sabin joins the Aces suddenly go into the championship favorites tier. Like, we have to know. I'm basing this based on current knowledge, but like, if I was making a tier list, the Lynx and the Liberty are would be in the favorites tier. They'd be in the favorites tier as the 2 best teams. And I think the Liberty got a little bit better. But like, so, like, just, Like, how much better is Maureen Johannes than Sloot? A little bit better. How much better is Tash Cloud than Benijah Linney Hamilton? Probably it's a lateral step. The big difference is that they're not going to throw Phoebus on the end of the bench this year. She's going to be in the starting lineup. So that's kind of their improvement there. The Lynx, Carly Samuelson and Chechi Zandalasini is a lateral move. Badian from Heinz Allen just did not work for them last year. Grace Berger as another option at the point guard position, so they don't have to run Haydem as their backup or run Courtney Williams exclusively at the 1, is a pickup. And you also have to take into account that they brought back Jessica Shepard, who isn't the greatest starting power forward, but her as a backup means they actually have a backup power forward. That is an upgrade for what they need over Maisha Hines-Allen. So you've got that. You've got that then for their team. And you've also got to take into account that not only do you have like Maisha Hines-Allen, Jessica Shepard in, that there has been a huge improvement in Dorka Juhas. So the team that really needed a backup center, like Alana Smith was the most important player for the Lynx last year. I think a lot of people thought that if you just look at the record, they actually fared better with Fee off the court than with Alana Smith off the court because they didn't have a real backup for Alana Smith. And with Fee off the floor, you can kind of run, because they don't really run true bigs, they can kind of go with 4 kind of guards. You can move Kayla McBride up there, Kayla McBride up to the 4. They move Chechi a little bit to the 4. So when it comes to those two teams, they're still the best. But then the Fever is on paper the best team, is like on paper the only team that should be able to compete with them. Because on paper, they are like, no one should be able to guard them. And should get a pretty good look good idea how the Fever look in exhibition and a few preseason games. You should never, and I mean this, never overestimate preseason. As a Miami Heat fan, James Ennis is the preseason GOAT. James Ennis looks like the best basketball player in the world in preseason for a while. I thought he was going to do something for us. And we cannot forget that the Sky beat the Liberty by 40 points in preseason last year. They beat them by 40. 40. By 40 points. Preseason does not matter at all. The Dallas Wings were undefeated in preseason last year. The Dallas Wings won like 8 games last year. And don't worry. The time to worry about the Fever is if they're in the 6-7. Because my prediction is that there's going to be a 6 and the rest. I think one of the other teams might break into this. But when it's all said and done, the top 6 teams are the Fever. It's the same as last year. Except the Mercury are going to go into the top 6. Because the Mercury is just an interesting one. So it'll be the Sun out, Mercury in the same top 6 as last year. If the Fever are closer to the Wings, Sky, Sparks, those teams, if they're closer to those type of Dream, if they're closer to them than they are to Lynx, Liberty, Mercury, Storm, Aces, then I'm worried. And especially if they're closer to them teams coming into August. I wouldn't be worried about whatever the Fever do till the 1st of August. Because my prediction is they're going to have an okay start. They're going to have a super fast start. They're going to probably blitz 1 or 2 teams in their first 5 games. Then there's just going to be a little bit of a lull because teams will start to kind of figure them out. And you've got Stephanie White, who's very good coach at making adjustments. She's going to figure something out, and they're going to have a few highs and lows in the season. I think 3rd seed is probably where they're going to be. Is probably where they're going to be situated in the year. So until we get into August, realistically, there's no point worrying too much about the record of the Fever. I'd be more looking about how they're playing and how they're playing in wins. Is that sustainable? Is it replicable? And what's gone wrong in the losses? Is the losses because the other teams played well? Are the losses because they have glaring weaknesses? Are the losses because, like last year, their weaknesses from game 1 were still their weaknesses in the playoffs because of a lack of evolution in their team? If, say, there's a huge weak point in the Fever and teams are able to exploit that, how do they work to fix that? And by August, you should see something. You should genuinely see by August how the Fever not are going to look in the playoffs, but you should see them throwing a different bunch of looks out there, throwing a bunch of different lineups, seeing what works. And by then, we can make like an accurate representation or like an accurate opinion on how they're going to be for the season. It looks really good. My guess is 3rd seed, but I'm making this video because a lot of people were saying, as I said, they could be the 4th, 5th seed coming into Eurobasket. And people were saying there's not a chance. And I'm like, there is. As much as it's as likely that they have a little bit of a tough adjustment period as it is they blitz the league and are a top seed. The reality is they're probably going to be somewhere in the middle, but if you are a Fever fan, you have to kind of expect everything. And I trust the coach, I trust the players, I trust the team, the GM, that they brought the players in, that they'll figure it out by the playoffs. But one of the worst things was last year, the team peaked 3 weeks before the playoffs, and they went in on a bad streak in the playoffs and then carried that bad streak into game 1, which is what you don't want to see happening.